Maynor Suazo-Sandoval Maynor Suazo was filling potholes. It was 1:27 in the morning. He and 5 colleagues were on the Francis Scott Key Bridge, mid-span, in the dark, doing the night shift road work that happens when there is no traffic. 1 mile away, a container ship called the Dali had just lost power. The pilot had issued a mayday. The harbor authority had begun closing the bridge ramps. But they didn't close them in time for the crew on the deck. But this is what the investigation found, not a single catastrophic mistake. A series of decisions made across 9 years that were each individually defensible and collectively fatal. 6 men died that night. Maynor Suazo-Sandoval, 38, from Honduras. Miguel Angel Luna Gonzalez Miguel Angel Luna Gonzalez, 49, from El Salvador. Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes Alejandro Hernández Fuentes, 35, from Mexico. Dorian Roniel Castillo Cabrera Dioalian Ronil Castillo Cabrera, 26, from Guatemala. Jose Maynor Lopez Jose M. Maynor Lopez, 37, also from Guatemala. Carlos Daniel Hernandez Estrella Carlos Denuayel Hernández Estrella, origin and age as confirmed by his family. A 7th worker, Julio Cervantes Suarez Julio Servientes Swatres, survived. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, 6 miles of steel truss across the Patapsco River, collapsed in 22 seconds. Its main spans fell onto the Dali. The ship was unharmed. The bridge was not. The port of Baltimore closed immediately. It is the 12th busiest port in the United States. It handles more cars and light trucks than any other port in the country. The closure lasted 11 weeks. Economic losses to the region have been estimated at over $100 million per day in the first weeks. Property damage, between $4.3 and $5.2 billion. That is the projected cost of the replacement bridge. In May 2026, 2 years after the collapse, the state of Maryland settled its civil case for $225 billion. The same week, a federal grand jury unsealed a criminal indictment against the ship's management company and its technical superintendent. We will get to that. But first, the wire. The Francis Scott Key Bridge opened in 1977. It was a continuous truss design, the type of structure where removing any load-bearing member transfers stress to the others. It was not designed to survive direct impact from a modern container ship. Nothing built in 1977 was. The MV Dali is 984 feet long, just under 300 meters. It was built in 2015 by Hyundai Heavy Industries in South Korea, and by 2024, it was operated by Synergy Marine Synergy Marine, a Singaporean ship management company. On the evening of 25 March 2024, the Dali was berthed at Seagirt Marine Terminal, loading containers bound for Colombo, Sri Lanka. That evening, in port, before departure, the ship experienced 2 electrical faults. The first, a damper was mistakenly closed, stalling the engine. The second, insufficient fuel pressure caused a backup generator to shut down. Neither fault was reported to the U.S. Coast Guard. Neither fault was reported to the NTSB. At 00:36 on 26 March, the Dali departed. 2 harbor tugs escorted it through Fort McHenry Channel. By 01:08, both tugs had been released. The ship was running under its own power at slow ahead, heading southeast toward the Chesapeake. On the bridge of the Dali, the pilot, the local navigation specialist required by law for harbor approaches, was guiding the vessel out. This is standard procedure. A vessel this size entering or leaving a major port uses a pilot who knows the local channel intimately. At 01:24 and 59 seconds, that pilot's controls went dark. Complete loss of low-voltage electrical power. The ship was approximately 3,200 feet from the bridge. Here is what the NTSB confirmed happened in the following 4 minutes and 10 seconds. At 01:25, 47, 48 seconds after the blackout, the ship began turning involuntarily to starboard. Without steering, the current and the residual momentum of the rudder began pushing the bow toward the Key Bridge's southern pier. At 01:25:58, low voltage power was partially restored. The pilot immediately called the Coast Guard. At 01:26:10, the emergency generator restored steering. The rudder was set to port 20 degrees, maximum correction available. It was not enough. The ship was already committed to a trajectory. At 01:27:02, the port anchor was ordered dropped. Standard procedure for emergency deceleration in confined water. The anchor hit the riverbed. The ship continued moving. At 01:27:23, the pilot issued the Mayday call. 62 seconds before impact, that Mayday reached the Maryland Transportation Authority. Officers dispatched immediately to close the bridge ramps. Drivers were stopped. No vehicle crossed the bridge after the Mayday. The maintenance crew on the mid-span deck was not on a ramp. At 01:28:10, the bow of the Dali left the channel. It struck mud near Pier 17. The anchor brake was released manually at 01:28:42. At 01:29:09, the Dali struck Pier 17 at 64 knots, just over 7 miles per hour. That is not fast for a car. For a 100,000-ton vessel, it is an order of magnitude above what the pier was designed to survive. Pier 17 collapsed. The main spans followed within seconds, 22 seconds, then the river. The NTSB spent a month finding the cause. Investigators brought in specialists from Hyundai Heavy Industries. They forced the main breaker, designated HR1, to trip 3 times on 10, 12, and 29 April 2024. On the third attempt, they found it. A single wire, in terminal block node 381, inside relay DB1X1, inside panel GPT1, on a spring clamp connection that had never fully seated. This wire 1 in the NTSB notation, carried the signal to the undervoltage release controlling HR1. HR1 was the breaker connecting the 66 kV main bus to the transformer that powered the 440-volt switchboard. That switchboard ran the steering pumps, the cooling water pumps for the main engine, and the fuel oil flushing pump. During construction in 2015, a wire label band, a small plastic identification sleeve, similar in diameter to a phone charging cable, had been placed too low on the wire's ferrule. That positioning prevented the wire from seating completely in the spring clamp. For 9 years, the connection held, not because it was secure, but because the vibration threshold had not been crossed. At 01:24:59 on 26 March 2024, it was. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy described finding that wire as, quote, hunting for a loose rivet on the Eiffel Tower. One thermal infrared camera, available for under $200, would have detected the anomalous heat signature at that connection during routine maintenance. The NTSB confirmed that thermal scanning was not part of Synergy's SINRG's maintenance protocol for the Dali's wiring systems. The wire is the proximate cause, but the NTSB does not stop there. Neither does the DOJ. In November 2025, the NTSB issued its final report. In May 2026, the Department of Justice unsealed a criminal indictment. The defendants are Synergy Marine SINRG Maritime T Limited, based in Singapore, Synergy Maritime T Limited, based in Chennai, India, and Radhakrishnan Karthik Nair Radha Krishnan Ka Arctic NAIR 47, the Dali's technical superintendent. The charges include conspiracy, obstruction of the NTSB proceeding, false statements, and critically, willfully failing to immediately report a known hazardous condition to the U.S. Coast Guard. That last charge refers to the 2 blackouts in port on 25 March. The blackouts that occurred before departure, the ones that were not reported. The DOJ goes further than the NTSB. The indictment alleges that Synergy had replaced the Dali's standard fuel service pumps for 2 of its 4 generators with flushing pumps. Flushing pumps are cleaning equipment. They are not designed for continuous fuel delivery. They are not designed to auto-restart after a power failure, which is why, when the blackout at 01:24:59 triggered an automatic restart sequence, one of those pumps failed to restart. which is why the second blackout, the one that preceded final impact, occurred. The DOJ alleges this substitution was deliberate cost-cutting. The NTSB notes it as a contributing factor. The distinction between allegation and finding is important. The indictment has not yet gone to trial. What is documented? Synergy knew the ship had electrical problems before it left port. They did not tell the regulator. 4 men in this industry made decisions across 8 years. 6 men on a bridge were never given the chance to make any. The settlements are significant. A federal civil settlement in October 2024 was $102 million. Maryland state settlement in May 2026 reached $225 billion. Combined with associated federal claims, the total civil exposure exceeds $23 billion. The regulatory gap is harder to price. The Sunshine Skyway bridge in Florida collapsed in 1980 after a freighter strike killed 35 people. That ship was 606 feet long. Congress responded. The Federal Highway Administration issued new peer protection standards in 1991. ASHTO codified collision resistance requirements in 1994. The Key Bridge received a grandfather clause. No retrofit was required. The Dali was 984 feet long, 4 times the size of the vessel that destroyed the Sunshine Skyway. The engineering community had debated whether retrofitted dolphins would have stopped a vessel that large at that speed. The honest answer is probably not entirely, but the question was never tested because the retrofit was never built. The estimated cost of a dolphin retrofit, tens of millions. The cost of the replacement bridge, $3 to $5 billion. So here is what the record actually shows. A wire installed incorrectly in 2015, maintenance protocols that did not include thermal scanning, electrical faults the night before departure not reported, a pump modification that may have been chosen for cost, a bridge that survived 47 years and received a regulatory exemption from the safety standard that might have slowed the collapse. No single decision killed those 6 men. Each decision was made by someone with a reason. The installer was following a process. The maintenance schedule was approved by the Classification Society. The decision not to report the blackouts was, the DOJ alleges, deliberate. The retrofit was deferred because it was expensive and not legally required. That is the pattern this channel is built around. Systems do not fail in a moment. They accumulate decisions. The failure is the last decision to land. If this kind of forensic analysis is useful to you, the mechanism, the decisions, the gap between what was known and what was done, the field notes goes deeper. It is the accompanying newsletter to Engineering Autopsy. Each week it covers one decision layer that did not make it into the video. Case 2's field note covers the Classification Society's role, what Lloyd's Register and Class NK are required to verify, and what fell through. The link is below. Case 3 is already in progress. It is a structural failure, one that was photographed, documented, and flagged